all of these different agencies. He is the kingpin, if you will, in every sense. This position has been underplayed, by the way. So, the DNI is just kind of like just a position, maybe kind of like, not quite like a consultant, but it's just kind of a coordinator. Get everybody together, working on the same page and playing on the same team so that 9/11 doesn't happen again, because we didn't share intelligence. 17 agencies. Well, here's the interesting thing about the DNI. This was created under George Bush, John. April 21st, 2005, George Bush signed this into law to create the DNI and to outfit the whole mechanism, right? And who did he appoint to be the first ever director of national intelligence but a Mr. John Negroponte? John Negroponte.
Oh, Lord.
He was a member of the Trilateral Commission, John. This is the man that set up the structure for our entire intelligence system throughout the United States. All 17 agencies were reformed, were transformed by John Negroponte to serve a different master for a different purpose. And I suggest to you that our entire national apparatus is now designed to serve technocracy, not the American people. This is the control mechanism that they have now to monitor what's going on in society. It fits perfectly with technocracy, you see.
Yes, I do see. And I got to tell you, Patrick, this is beyond sobering. This literally is stunning, because you have pulled together all of the points, virtually, that explain why things run in such an inscrutable way, why the government won't work, why the will of the people is not being paid any attention at all, why the parties behave almost identically except for their style of presentation.
That's exactly right.
I mean, this is beyond belief. But the thing that's the most stunning about it is I can't decide if we've just been duped and just let it happen. We were just oblivious to it, or if we were in denial, or if we were just too stupid to see it happening, because we've been dumbed down. I mean, look at the idiotic things that people fixate on. I would submit to you this is far more interesting than the dimensions of Kim's backside.
For sure. For sure. This is the evidence is beyond it's beyond way beyond provability. The evidence is so overwhelming at this point, and I'm sure there's more. I know there's got to be stuff I haven't uncovered, but you know what? Even what I have right now is so over the top, completely overwhelming. These people stand guilty and naked before the evidence.
Damning is the word I would use.
It's damning evidence, John. Absolutely damning evidence. These people deserve everything they get. And why hasn't America picked up on this? Ignorance is part of it. The other thing is it's been hidden from them. It's been hidden in plain sight. If you don't understand history, you can't possibly understand technocracy. You just can't.
And how can you know it if you're not taught it?
That's right. And even then, technocracy fell out of the history books. It just wasn't there to be taught in U.S. history. So students going to class, they learn about everything else. They learn about the Civil War, they learn about the presidents, but they don't learn about technocracy because it wasn't in the history book in the first place. So they can't see what it was. Once historic technocracy is understood, and once the Trilateral Commission hegemony is understood, all of a sudden the dots connect. It's not that I connected the dots. I merely am presenting some evidence that makes the dots self-evident. You follow what I'm saying?
They connect themselves.
I know, they connect themselves. I don't have to sit here and draw lines for you. When you see these different aspects of this line up, you say, oh, that's it. That's it. That's exactly what's going on. And it is. And so, somebody immediately stands there, well, Obama's not a president. He's not a member of the Trilateral Commission. Give me a break. All this stuff is just coincidence. And even if it wasn't, Obama is not one of those. Well, look at the people surrounding this guy. Admiral Dennis Blair was his first director of national intelligence. Dennis Blair, John Negroponte are two peas in a pod. They're both members of the Trilateral Commission. Give me a break. Are these people the only ones qualified to run our national security apparatus? I don't think so. John, you could do a better job. You could do it, I'm sure. Susan Rice. Remember Benghazi?
Mm-hmm.
When she was ambassador to the UN.
Oh, yes.
And Benghazi goes up in flames, and she's out with her talking points, lying to the American people about everything that was always about this video, it was about this and that. A member of the Trilateral Commission, did she just have an attack of stupid or something? Or was there something more behind it? Well, she got moved laterally from being the ambassador to the UN to move directly to be the national security advisor to the president, where she's completely protected by the executive security, whatever it is, privilege. Then you have Tom Donilon. He served as the assistant security advisor as well as the national security advisor, member of the Trilateral Commission. And then he had another one, James Jones, served as a national security advisor. So Obama has so far had 3 NSAs. 3. Every one of them has been a member of the Trilateral Commission. Now, what kind of odds do you put on that, John?
I would say the deck is stacked. I don't think the odds even come into play.
I know. It's like over the top.
Now, as far as people on the ground, the boots on the ground here, so I'm thinking it might be pretty difficult to go off the grid even at this point.
They would like us to go off the grid, I think, in one sense, because if the EPA is successful in reducing carbon emissions by 80% in America, it's going to shove us back to a condition somewhere that we haven't seen since about 1825. People don't think about that. What does an 80% carbon reduction mean? Well, it means, folks, we're going to be back where we were in 1825, and that level of industrial activity. And so you get off the grid today. If you say, well, I'm just going to do it I'm going to have my generator, I'm going to have my solar panels, I'm going to have this and that. I'm not going to have a credit card. I'm just going to spend cash. I'm going to throw my cell phone away. I'm going to get a Flintstone and 2 sticks in case I need to make a fire. And you know what you've done? You've just put yourself back to 1825 voluntarily. Go ahead, get off the grid. There you are.
Now, one more time. They would like this. Why?
Because in the end of it, where we're going back is take the whole picture of world history. This is moving because property rights are on the chopping block. You realize that. Agenda 21 says specifically, property rights are a thing of the past. They're evil. People don't need to have property rights. They don't need to be able to accumulate wealth. They just need to be fattened up and happy and do what we tell them to do, and everything will be fine. And so the last time in history we had this condition was in the feudal era. They call them the Dark Ages for a reason. They were very dark.
That's funny. That term has popped into my head several times in the recent memory.
This is where it's headed kind of structurally, because if you cannot have property rights, if you can't own anything, all you can do is go out and squat on the property. Well, the BLM has already grabbed up half the real estate in the United States. If you want to go out and squat on a piece of property somewhere to try and eke out an existence, you're going to have to give 80% of your produce or 90% back to the landlord, the land baron. That's exactly what the feudal ages was all about. And if the land baron didn't like the looks of your face, or if he didn't like the looks of your kid or your wife or whatever, he'd just say, get off my property, and go find somewhere else to squat. You squatter, you?
Yes.
So they just tell them to take a hike, pack up, man, you're out of here tomorrow. And they'd have to go along with it. It was a horrible life. People were oppressed. People were pressed down. People didn't live very long because they couldn't get, they didn't have the sanitary conditions. And the land barons got filthy, stinking rich, of course, at the expense of the poor people producing all the wealth out of the land. This is where we're headed back to. This is why all of the global resources are being accumulated into a global trust that will be managed by technocracy for the good of the people. You're not, for instance, you're not smart enough to manage that 1,000-acre cattle ranch out in East Texas. You need to give your property to us, and we'll give you a license to stay there as long as we think you're doing a good job. And if we ever decide that you're not living sustainably enough, or that you're being mean to that land, we will take action and remove you from that land. This is exactly what they're saying to farmers and ranchers all over America today. Exactly. That's what Cliven Bundy was all about up in southern Nevada.
Yeah, and everybody from Glenn Beck to all these idiots at Fox News and the other ones, all calling him a domestic terrorist.
Yeah.
And that Greta Van Susteren, the Scientologist, unacceptable, unacceptable. Well, I think the whole stinking lot of this mainstream media is unacceptable, and their initiatives should be neutralized along with the initiatives of these people. These people need to be put on a list. And they need to be their initiatives need to be neutralized. And what I'm about to say is actually probably in their view quite dangerous. By any means necessary to neutralize their initiatives. Unless you're okay with being a slave, in which case that's your problem.
I'm pretty convinced, John, that the way to combat technocracy is on a local basis at this point. I might have said something different 10 years ago. But today, local action is what is called for, because technocracy, through the auspices of Agenda 21 as the smart growth and sustainable development, has been brought down to every community in America. Common Core is brought down to every community in America, and other programs like that. They're all here on a local basis. Citizens in every local community across our nation stood up against technocracy, educated their friends and neighbors as to what the scam is. Okay, how does the scam work? Well, here it is. Connect the dots yourself. This is the scam. Are you ready to say no? Go down to City Hall. Go down to the City Council. Go down to the Planning and Zoning Commission meetings. Go down to the school board meetings. Go to all these meetings and tell these people, no, we're not going to do this. This is anti-American, anti-rule of law, anti-republic, anti-constitution, anti-everything that we've ever stood for in this country. And if you're going to do this, then we're going to hold you guilty of destroying our country.
It's anti-human.
It's anti-human as well. And people on a local basis let me put it this way. If a local community were to stand up and clean house in their own community, I don't care if it's only got 500 people in their community. If they went in and clean house with these people, and most of them are your neighbors and friends, you could persuade most of them to say, you know what, you've been influenced by this cult for the last 15 years, slap them and get them out of it, for Pete's sake, and help them see the light. And some of them may just say, you know what, you're right, I'm going to stop this nonsense, I'm not going to do it anymore, and I'm going to come back to America. But if even a little community cleaned up their act and threw this stuff out, do you think that wouldn't send a message up the food chain? I dare say it would. And there are many communities across America that are actually doing this today. People fighting Common Core, people fighting smart grid, people fighting smart growth and property rights issues. The only problem is in all these fights, John, nobody yet knows who the real enemy is.
Well, they bloody well do now.
They need to know, because if you defeat Common Core, for instance, and go home and turn on the TV, you have just defeated, you have won a skirmish, but you have lulled yourself into thinking you've won the war. And you know what? 10 more things, or 10 things 10 times as bad as Common Core are coming at you right now. And you think you've won something. And you're going to get clobbered by all these other initiatives before you even know to get off the couch. No, people need to understand, like they knew when Pearl Harbor was attacked, and to kick off our involvement